Hey everybody, this is Andrea Jenson from the Cash Flow CFO, and you're listening to the Cash Flow CFO Podcast, the show that explores the financial side of running a business for people who want to maximize profitability and scale with confidence. If you want to make smart financial decisions based on data and put more of your hard-earned profits into your pocket, this is the podcast for you. This episode of the Cash Flow CFO podcast is brought to you by the Cash Flow CFO. Did you know that on average, business owners have up to 84% of their personal net worth tied up in their business? Our virtual CPAs and CFOs, as well as accounting and bookkeeping experts, empower business owners just like you to make big leaps that help them maximize profitability and scale with confidence. Visit thecashflowcfo.com for more information, and thank you for listening. Our guest for today is Chris Williams. Chris Williams is the owner and CEO of System6, a fully remote outsourced accounting firm serving over 200 customers and 40 team members nationwide. Chris acquired the firm in 2021 and spends his time growing the firm organically and through strategic acquisitions, while importantly protecting its mission to become the best place to work in remote accounting. In his spare time, Chris loves staying fit, working on his golf game, and settling into a new home with his wife in Northern California. And so exciting, Chris is expecting his first baby in just 1 week from now. Congratulations and welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. Super excited to be here. And yeah, if my phone rings, we'll have to reschedule. But I think,
absolutely, you are excused. You've got a hall pass to jump off at any time that baby calls. So that's so exciting. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today. I know a lot of our listeners are growing their businesses through acquisitions. And so you have done that yourself. I'm excited to ask a few questions and hopefully, give some insight to our listeners about how you fully executed that, and it's been very successful. So, you hear a few stories here and there that doesn't work out as planned, but you've got the dream scenario. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But tell me, how did you decide accounting firm was what you were interested in?
Say is, some of these takeaways, right, are super applicable if you're thinking about selling your company, if you're, buying as a way you're growing, but also, some of what made System6 attractive, even if you're not trying to sell or buy, just can make your business better, right? This is not about, trying to do something that's going to make it better to sell or better to, to be a platform and buy. It's just like a lot of this is just making it a better business, and then it happens to be sellable, et cetera. So, I sort of came from a finance background before, buying System6 and wanted to do something entrepreneurial. So that brought me towards, I either want to start a business or go buy a business. Decided I was better to sort of take something that was existing, buy it, and then try to grow it. So I was looking in, a variety of industries, but they all needed to be somewhat related to finance. I felt like I should step into something that I had some experience with, even if limited. And then when I sort of discovered what we do, which is like day-to-day outsourced accounting, a little bit of CFO, kind of like you guys do, it's different than the tax firms where there's much more kind of inconsistent work throughout the year, inconsistent workloads. I really liked, the bookkeeping line of work that we're in is happening every month. So it's, consistent. That makes staffing easier. This industry serves any small business kind of between 2 and 20 million in revenue. So huge end market that we can go serve. We serve an end market that's growing. Small businesses, more and more are getting formed every year. Obviously, it's been a little choppier the last, 2 years of the interest rate environment. But, when you think about why did I like outsourced accounting, it's, a consistent business model we provide mission critical services. Like people need to have a bookkeeper. It serves a big market that's growing. Those were kind of the key components. They're like, all right, this is a pretty good industry. Let me go see if I can find a good business in that industry as well. That's what kind of got me excited. And then, I was doing a sales job. I was finding companies and sending emails to owners, and found System 6 and sent the email to an owner, Jeremy, who built System 6 from the ground up. And 9 months later, we were able to get a deal done. So that's the short version.
Yeah, I love it. Right. There's a million things in between there.
Yeah.
Day one and day 9 months later.
But more involved business. It's that easy.
Yeah. So had you already established your acquisition criteria before you found System 6, or was it kind of like, how did that organically or non-organically?
Yes and no. I think it's important to have, when you start looking for a business, some criteria. So, I knew I wanted it to be of a certain size, at least probably kind of $2 million in revenue. I knew I wanted it to be something where the owner was not in a lot of day-to-day client delivery work, because I felt like it'd be harder for me to step into that. That would mean there's probably an even closer relationship between owners and customers, if the owner is really serving them every day. So, and that stuff applies across industries. If you're looking to buy a business, the smaller you buy, the fewer systems are going to be in there, and the more it's going to really just be tied to that owner. And then if that owner is going away because you just bought the business and they're retiring, presumably, like you buy a super small business, it can be not as much of a business as you thought once that owner retires. And then same thing around, like, I wanted a business where the owner wasn't serving customers directly, because I felt like, again, it'd be hard for me to take that over and maintain that. And if the owner's gone, they're not serving the customers anymore, what do you really have? So those were, some criteria I had ahead of time. And then as I started looking at outsourced accounting, I learned more industry specific things, like what's a good churn rate, customer churn, what's a bad churn rate in our industry, what's a good profit margin, what's a bad one. So I think it's important not to buy the first thing you find. Ironically, System 6 was one of the first ones I found, but I kept looking for a while and then kind of came back to it, because, you got to get to know an industry a little bit before you can understand relative, how good is this company versus others.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to know an industry well because you're in it, and maybe you're doing an additional acquisition for your company, then you probably can move faster. But if you're new to an industry, I think it's important to, see a bunch of people, so to speak, before you decide who to get married to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the big things to point out that you had said was the transferable value, right? If you take that if you have an owner operated business versus a professionally managed business, number one, you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but it's going to be easier to scale, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people look at it and go, oh, I'd rather have an owner operated one because I can get it for a better price. But no, not really, right? There's a lot. Yeah. A lot of headache that comes your way with that. And so for all the listeners out there, right, if you can, just by taking your business from a owner operator business, meaning you are the one delivering the service, you might have a small team, but it's still reliant on you. There's no management level layer in your business. You can take and double what your multiple would be for your business just by changing it to a professionally managed business. And of course, that doesn't come overnight, and that's not a super, it's a messy process to do, right? We call it the messy middle when you're in the hiring. And sometimes, you have to look at, do I need outside funding to be able to bring in this management layer? Am I going to do it organically? So each business will have its own way that they're approaching that. But if you are thinking of exiting your business, right, that's something that just right there, installing a professionally managed team over your company, you're going to double your multiple. So,
and I think that's a multi-year process. You know what I mean? You don't do that in 6 months.
Right.
There's other stuff too. Do you have proper IT systems? Do you have proper books? Like all of that stuff too. It's a multi-year process. So I think if you're thinking about, hey, I might want to sell, or hey, like I'd just like to, be able to take vacation a lot more smoothly, so to speak.
Right.
It's going to cost money. You're going to have to cut your margin because it means you're going to start hiring people that aren't delivering revenue. And we've continued to go through that journey since I bought the business. Our margin has, kind of kept going down because we've added more layers as we've grown. But just know it's a couple year thing,
Right. And that's also too why I kind of coined it the messy middle, because your margins are going down. So all of a sudden, as a business owner, you're kind of panicking, like, wait a minute. So you have to have a little bit of a higher risk tolerance to look at it and say, I'm either going to organically fund hiring that management team, which means my margins are going to go down because I'm not generating revenue off of these team members. Or I'm going to go out and get funding, right? So whether you're getting a line of credit, an SBA loan, or you're bringing in investors, whatever that may be, one way or the other to get from where you are to where you want to be, there's a strategy and a process that goes through that, and it does take time.
And I think one way to maybe speed it up is, you can think about doing an acquisition if you want, because all of a sudden, you're a cash flowing business, you go buy another cash flowing business that's in the same industry. All of a sudden, now maybe you had $70,000 of annual profit. That's not enough to really go, it's going to take time, but maybe you go buy another one and now you've got 150 of annual profit. Maybe some of that's got to go to debt, but then, hey, now I can go pay $100,000 GM. I can afford to make that higher. So, as we just actually did a small acquisition, a couple years later now, and even that part of the thinking there is, hey, we're growing organically, but it takes time for those customers to come on. You can only add a couple customers a month. If we can go buy, 40 customers and there's profit that comes with that, all of a sudden we have more money we can go reinvest really quickly into marketing, further marketing, et cetera. So
absolutely. And you might get that operator to come on board and sit in one of those management roles, right? So it could be a win-win in that aspect too. I'm a big proponent of growth through acquisitions, because there's when you look at all the assets of a business, you're getting, new customers. You can cross-sell, upsell, increase the average transaction value. You're getting more team members, and, you're spending, and maybe you can talk to this too. When you made this acquisition, how big of a decision factor was the people that you were bringing into your existing company?
Yeah, I mean, especially in our industry, it's like basically you're deciding based on people and clients, and that's it. I mean, that's what we're buying. So that was a huge part of the decision. I built a ton of trust. You can only get to know the people, but besides the owner, so much in an acquisition, because the owner doesn't want to maybe tell their team too far in advance that it's going to happen in case it goes south, et cetera. But I think, most people at a company reflect the owner in one way or another. So getting to know the owner really well, that maybe you're going to go buy their firm, and, grilling them about their people, getting resumes of their people, like looking at their experience, super important, and was a huge decider in why we were excited to do this, because I had a lot of trust in Stacy. This is a small practice, and I felt like if these people are good enough for her, candidly, then they're gonna be a great fit for us. Mm-hmm. And if you buy something that doesn't have good people, then again, you overpaid. So it's super important. I will say one thing for us in acquisitions, and I would recommend this. We won't close the deal, unless we get to meet kind of number 2, number 3. I understand it may not happen, before we get pretty close to the finish line, but I think where some of these you hear go wrong is number 2 or number 3 thought they were going to take over the business one day, and all of a sudden it gets sold, and they leave because they're pissed off, and now it's a mess for everybody. And that's not good for the seller either, because the seller is always going to have some amount of the purchase price that's kind of waiting to be paid off, contingent on 1 year of revenue staying the same or something like that. And so now they're going to lose that money because it's going to be a mess because the number 2 just lost. So I mean, these businesses are all people based, so super important.
Start scaling with confidence today. The Cash Flow CFO is a full-service accounting and fractional CFO firm. So it goes without saying that our financial experts are phenomenal at number crunching. But more than that, they are expert communicators who will connect all those complicated financial dots in a way that just makes sense. We don't wait in the wings and check in every so often either. With our boutique approach, we position ourselves front and center, watching over every dollar that comes in and out of your business as if it was our own. So if your business is making money and you're ready to take it to the next level, but you're not sure you completely understand your numbers, and you're looking for that trusted guide to help you build a roadmap to reach your financial goals, it sounds like we would be a great fit. Visit thecashflowcfo.com and let's get started empowering you to build and scale your business the way you want to today.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's something that a lot of business owners think, oh, it sounds great and easy. I'm just going to grow through acquisitions. But there's actually there's a lot to think through and spend the time in the due diligence phase to do all of these things, even if sometimes it feels crunchy, right? To be honest, right?
To be very clear, it is harder to grow through. It's a great way to grow and you can move the needle faster, but it's riskier and probably harder. If you think about even our business, I can bring 3 or 4 customers on a month and hire 1 person a month. Well, I just brought on 30 effectively and hired, 4 people in a month, if that's how you want to think about it. And it's like, okay, well, that's just way more than we usually do. So there's already kind of risk in that by just taking on more. And then you've got all the transaction risk of clients that are now like, whoa, I am now being served by another business. So, I could go on and on of it's riskier, but it moves the needle faster. And that was a big decision. That's kind of what it was for me. Like, hey, do we want to keep growing organically, which we are, and be patient? It's cheaper to grow organically than it is to buy, but we can move the needle faster towards our goals. It just means a little more risk. And I was willing to take that risk on.
Yeah. And it's a calculated risk, right?
Totally.
It's not, you got to map out all the what ifs and have a plan in place and all that stuff. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So what do you think, and I love talking shop with other business owners, especially when, we have this great viewpoint of so many different businesses, business models, business owners, decision-making, risk-taking, how they're reacting to what's happening in the economy, in, politics, all the things, right? We have a great front row seat to all of that with being in the position that supports business owners from the financial perspective. What would you say are some of the things that you have seen working well recently with business owners, and not anything that's specific to an industry or things like that, but just kind of a high level, anything that stands out to you that you think, oh, that's worth sharing?
I think one thing that we've really noticed is look, everybody kind of rode a wave for a couple of years, I don't know, call it 21 into 2022. And then we've noticed the folks, and we're probably guilty of this too, the folks who maybe chased some shiny objects during that period and it worked. But those are kind of non-core parts of their business. Maybe they went after a new hot end market. Oh my gosh, we're going to go serve crypto one way or another because that was this crazy boom. And obviously crypto's up and down. But my point is the people that kind of lost focus a little bit and went after things that were hot for a minute, I think have struggled in the last couple of years as that all those whatever that bubble was kind of got burst as the economy has kind of come back down to earth. And I think the people that stayed disciplined, and we serve a bunch of home service clients, right? And a lot of folks, their bread and butter is just typical repair and maintenance work. But then everyone was living at home, doing all this construction, building a back office in their backyard or whatever. And so we had some folks who went after that because it was good margin, it was hot. but then that distracted them, and maybe they made some good money on that, but then that distracted them from their bread and butter on like good SEO marketing around, I need a plumber to come fix something, and training technicians to be good at that. And then like that bubble burst of a bunch of kind of projects, construction around the house, and now they kind of lost their way a little bit with their core. And so now they lost the hot moment and they lost the core, and now they're like in trouble. So I think that was a long-winded answer of just saying focus is something that we've noticed. Folks that are doing better right now are people who kind of stay disciplined and stay focused on what they're good at.
I think that's a really good point. And I liked your long-winded answer for that, because it painted a picture that I think a lot of business owners can relate to, because it is so tempting to be like, oh, this segment is really hot right now, I'm going to put everything over there. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it goes away and you're like, oh shoot. And your pipeline is empty. You're, all the things that were, what made your business model successful in the first place have been, forgotten about.
Yeah. And then I think, the other big thing is technology and, adoption of it. And, obviously like there's been a ton that's come out the last couple of years around AI, and, the people that like had done the good work in even before COVID or 2020, 2021 of like, okay, I'm going to start actually digitizing my operations as much as humanly possible. They were then ready to more quickly take advantage of, oh, okay, well now because everything's already in the cloud, now I can very easily go buy this app that exists, that was founded in 2023 that then like, uses AI in one way or another to summarize all my, sales call notes. But if you didn't do the work in 2020 and 2021 to like get your team to actually use HubSpot or whatever and put your sales call notes online, then you couldn't leverage whatever new technology came out in the last couple of years. And I think that's only going to move faster. Like this stuff is coming out, faster and faster and faster. So it's like, if you want to be able to get advantages from using whatever technology is coming out, you kind of got to be already pretty modernized to use that technology. So I think that's just like, if you're still swimming in paper a little bit, or if, whatever, like, I think that's just going to become a disadvantage faster and faster, because the leaders are going to be able to adopt the new stuff really quickly, and new stuff's going to come out even faster. So it's like, you're kind of behind the eight ball. So, we've seen that, right, with folks that have gotten invoicing fully online, they're able to start moving faster than folks who are, maybe only did step one, right? Like COVID was like, all right, everybody realized they got to get off QuickBooks Desktop, and a lot of people are going to move to QuickBooks Online. But there's other steps that, you need to keep doing. Just doing the basics, I think, leaves you behind pretty fast nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about margins in the business, right, it's if you can, 1% to 3% here on this line item and, 2% over here, all of these new technologies are going to allow you to do that, to create those efficiencies, and those compound, right? So all of that money is falling to your bottom line when you create those efficiencies, which is allowing you, right? Because most of the business owners listening here, they want to grow their companies, right? So that's giving you more money into your pocket of the business to go out and do growth through acquisitions, to go out and spend more to acquire new customers. So every little piece of what you're talking about with the efficiencies and the technologies, what that ultimately equates to is more money in your pocket, and putting your team doing their highest best use of their skill set, and not doing the monotonous stuff that they don't need to be doing anyway, and you can automate. So I think that's a really good point.
And I think also, like, this is again a little bit back to the focus point, but it's like, if you need to be ready for what the next problem is going to be, and you don't know when and sort of what that's going to look like. So if you were in 2021, 22, like not working on this stuff, just kind of like, business was easier than printing cash. Then all of a sudden interest rates go up, demand goes down. And if you'd kind of just been asleep at the wheel and just sort of riding the wave without doing any work to improve your business, all of a sudden the wave goes down, and it was harder for folks to absorb. Oh my God, my suppliers all just jacked their rates 30% on me, and I'm still like super inefficient because I didn't use the remote force of 2020 to modernize a little bit. Like, now my prices went up, my mortgage payments just went up, and now I'm really in trouble. So I think just a reminder, and this, I'm listening to this too. Like, everything I'm saying, I'm like, yeah, good reminder for me too. Like, always be trying to improve every single day, because even if it feels like everything's great right now, it's not going to be at some point, and you need to be ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so right now we're recording this, it's December, and we're doing, for all of our clients, we're doing our projections for next year, putting budgets in place. And these are some of the things that we're layering in. We're saying these are the goals for each of these different segments of the business from a financial perspective. And now we're handing that kind of financial roadmap to the ops team, saying, go figure out what is going to create that efficiency to stay in line with these goals in the budget and things like that. So absolutely, this is the perfect time to look at those types of things and just, do an audit. We have one thing, we call it our, what do we call that? Where we go through, we have a fancy name for it, but I can't think of what it is right now. Oh, a highlighter review. Yeah. We go through the GL detail, and we do this about quarterly, and we look at all of the COGS and all of the general and administrative expenses and marketing, and we go through line by line and we highlight. If it's green, yep, we still absolutely need that in the business. Continue on with that expense. If it's yellow, it's kind of like, what did I sign up for? I can't quite remember. Let me go do some research. And if we highlight it red with the business owner, then we need to cancel that or stop because we don't use it. It's not necessary in the business. So doing that kind of checkup on a quarterly basis will really help you to find those efficiencies.
Yeah. Or like if you talk about some of the more famous, cutthroat organizations out there, Amazon, I think famous for like cutting 10% of the workforce every year, something like that. Like, we're small businesses, we can't do that, but go ask yourself, hey, if I had to cut costs by 10%, where would I do it? And then you probably wouldn't actually cut by 10, but you might be like, well, that first 3%, I really don't need that. So I can get rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the beauty of that is if it's, extra fluff already, where does that go? Right into your bottom line. So
ounces make pounds,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really, that's something that I can't say enough is that, 1% here, 3% here, 2% here, you add it up and you annualize it. Hey, that's a lot that you're saving, right? That you're finding hidden money. You're plugging money leaks in your business. You're finding, opportunities, things that we get busy as business owners, and we, don't do the kind of that mundane stuff that we should be doing on a regular basis. So absolutely.
Just to give everyone, hey, you're not in alone. Like, I run an accounting business, right? Like, if anyone should be doing it, it would be me, you'd think. And like, I don't do that frequently enough. I'm going to go steal that red, yellow, green, my whole P&L.
Yeah. It's fun too, because then it's all pillar. It's all pillar credit. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Chris, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with acquisitions on, being buying a company and then buying other companies and using that strategy. I think that's great. And I hope all of our listeners got lots of little takeaways and tips of here's the real world reality of doing it. And
I think that the most important takeaway, and it's both, hey, what are you buying? What are you doing in your firm today? Like, what does the business look like without you there? And I think that's just something you need to be constantly asking yourself. Like, our business, I know without me here, I'm fortunate. Day-to-day operations, of course, if there's big problems, a big client issue, a big team member issue, like, that does need to come to me. But I'm fortunate, as I'm going on paternity leave here, like, day-to-day operations tend to, continue without me. But growth, I have a salesperson, so he handles leads when they come in. But like, I'm still kind of the lead generator, business development in a lot of ways. So that's the thing I'm thinking about all the time is like, how do I figure out a way for that to become not because of Chris or not through Chris?
Right.
And then once I figure that out, okay, then what's the next thing that's kind of dependent on me? And it'll be something else at that point. And then how do I get that off my plate and then go to the next thing and go to the next thing? It's like, I just think that's and that's when you look at an acquisition, hey, does that business, what happens when that owner leaves that business, and then are you okay with that? So I think it's a really important thing to be thinking about all the time, no matter what you're doing, which is just, hey, what doesn't happen without me or without the seller of the business I'm buying? And then what am I going to do about that?
Yep, absolutely. Love it. Great tips for our listeners.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. If anyone wants to learn more about you and your company, Chris, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, totally. System6.com, spelled out SIX, so not the number, or chris@system6.com. We do day-to-day finance, sort of bookkeeping, payroll, and then if you need a CFO, you work with Andrea. So that's kind of where we are. We pay bills, we do invoicing for folks. And if you're thinking about buying a business, I had a lot of people help me on my journey, and I'm happy to help you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, and keep us posted on that new baby.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Next time I see you, I'll have some darker eyes under my circle.
Yes, you will.
I'm already tired. I'm already getting ready for it. You can tell.
Awesome. All right, Chris. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and review, and we'll catch you on the next episode. If you're looking for more content or resources in the meantime, check out our website for information, blogs, and our I've Got a Spreadsheet for That series. That's thecashflowcfo.com. Again, thecashflowcfo.com. We can't wait to hear from you.